to um, try to book individual meetings with those of you who need help with ESG performance reporting. Please feel free to email me. You have received the emails from my account regarding the seminar if you need help with the ESG performance reporting. In the meantime, I do like to apologize. We had quite some technical difficulties with our webinar software, and we'll look to troubleshoot this so it does not happen.
Some additional reporting that is now due for your company. Everyone is reporting on their environmental, social, and governance performance, and the European Union will force companies to report even more. So the first thing I wanted to show you is that if you run the function FA-ESG, you will see on every single company what the different companies are reporting in terms of environmental, social, and governance data. This is super important for you guys because first you're going to see what investors can have access to widely when they look at your company and how much we think you disclose compared to your sector. Indeed, when you look at your the ESG disclosure score at every single subcategories, but also at the top, this is not an ESG performance score. This is basically we're looking at out of 100 how much we consider the company to disclose on their ESG performance and ESG data. If you go into environmental, social, or governance subcategory, you can then actually click, for instance, on the greenhouse gas scope 1 emission of Amazon, and if you click on it, you can exactly see where it does come from on the reporting standards. The other thing I wanted to show you is when you do something, so we're still on Amazon, if I run the function ESG, then I can see the ESG performance of Amazon. And I can see the ESG performance of Amazon compared to its peers. So instead of running EQRV or RV to see the relative valuation of your company, here you can actually compare your company to the others and to itself. So here, if I click on any of those, so this is just a broad overview. I can actually see how much Amazon is disclosing compared to the others, and also compared to its peers. You can amend the peers again. If you click here on RVESG, you'll be able to amend the type of peers that you have to compare Amazon to. So, for instance, in this case, obviously they compare it to Alibaba and eBay, and you can see how much Amazon is disclosing compared to the others and what is the score. That's super interesting and that's super important for you because at the moment, as you may know, investors are highly looking at that. So that's the quick version of the terminal. We also have some data around fixed income issuances. So if you run your company and look on so if, for instance, I load EDF and I look at the corp ticker, then I will have a look at all the bonds that have been issued by EDF. And now, like we've just released something, when you are on SECF or any kind of instrument on the terminal, those green leaves will show you which one of those bonds are green bonds. It's super useful for investors to spot directly how much green bond the company has issued and how much they've invested into their environmental transition. If you click on export, you can then export in the function called FIW if you want to do a bit of credit analysis, but I don't think that's as much relevant for you. What I wanted to show you next is the work we've done on BNEF, because as I said, my team, I don't know if you caught that, but so I'm doing research on sustainable finance and corporate sustainability. My team is focused on sustainability overall. We're about 5 of us covering those topics, and overall BNEF covers those topics in general. So I want to show you, we've written a lot of report on how to disclose your ESG performance and how to have a gold standard to understand the different reporting framework. To load BNF research, you can either type BNF on the terminal, and you will have this very ugly function from the terminal, and then you can click on BNF website, and it's going to load the BNF website, which is this one. You just need to type bnf.com on any Google research tool, and then you will arrive on this. So once you arrive on the BNF website, so first of all, you realize that it's a website, so it doesn't look like the terminal, which makes everyone happy. If you go to sectors then, and then sustainability, you will then land on the sustainability research page. So this is the page that is handled by my team. So we report on sustainable finance and sustainability here, whether it comes from energy procurement to sustainable finance. As you can see, my colleague has just issued a piece on carbon offsetting. Why would you use carbon offsetting? Why would you use it for? How to get the cheapest carbon offset? Who are the standards? So we have also a lot of primers for any corporate that is starting in this market. And then if you scroll down, you'll find, so first you have the market outlook to understand the big trends in the sustainable finance market as well as the corporate sustainability. But then if you scroll down, you have like different sector insights. And it can be really important for you guys because, for instance, if you go in primers and guide, and this is the most things I wanted to show you today, and what Lawrence asked me to present is how as a company, how to report ESG to your investors. So you have a few primers on how to do that. I wanted to show you first one piece of research, which is called Sifting Through the Corporate Sustainability Alphabet Soup. So this primer will show you who are the biggest sustainability reporting framework and how are they relevant for investors compared to how complex they are. So, like, if you start in this topic and you don't know what is the difference between TCFD, the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, as well as the Sustainable Accounting Standard Board, SASB, or if you need to answer to the CDP survey or the GRI survey, how popular those framework are and how are they relevant to your investors. So we explain all those commitments when they were created. So it's a very, very useful tool to understand how to implement them and why they are relevant for investors. Same, we have a primer on TCFD financial disclosure. So then again, we compare the different non-financial reporting frameworks. We explain to you how they work and how to basically fill in those kind of disclosure. And you have another report called How to Get a Gold Standard for TCFD Reporting. So it's basically taking very practical example on how to disclose via TCFD. So all of this can be found, again, in primers and guide, but then again, you have like a lot of subcategories. But this one can be really, really useful for you guys to understand how reporting on your ESG can be made. And then I wanted to show you like a brief report I've released about 10 days ago around green bonds and what it takes to raise a green bond for a corporate. So this is the very short case study around, if I'm a company, I want to issue a green bond, how do they work? What are the pre-issuance and post-issuance requirements? Why should I do so? What are the pros and cons? What are investors expecting from me if I do so? So this is a very, very short and sweet case study. I'm always happy to answer to that. And then finally, I wanted to close, because I know we don't have that much time. I wanted to close on the European taxonomy for sustainable activities. Then again, if this didn't work so well, I'm really, really sorry. You can always reach out to me. You can find me easily on the terminal, or get back to Seth or Lawrence to get in touch. What is the European taxonomy? So the European taxonomy is basically a reporting tool that was brought up by the European Commission. So after the Paris Agreement adoption in 2015, the European Commission set up an action plan on sustainable finance, and their goal was basically to make sure that ESG considerations were taken into account in the European policy framework, as well as having the tool to foster sustainable growth in the European Union. Dombrovskis repeated it. Ursula von der Leyen repeated it quite recently as well. I'm sure you're all aware of that. And then in 2018, they set up what we call a technical expert group that have worked on the European taxonomy, as well as 3 other pieces of regulation: a European Green Bond Standard, European Climate Benchmark, as well as making sure that they work on European corporate disclosure for climate-related information. This led to March 2020, where we've defined basically what the European taxonomy is. And what is the European taxonomy? We're facing more and more issues of greenwashing in Europe. I'm sure you won't learn anything new if I tell you that, we have the European Green New Deal with von der Leyen and Lagarde saying that they want to put $1 trillion into environmentally sustainable activities. BlackRock saying that they're going to put sustainable finance at the center of the investment strategy. A lot of investors, I work with a lot of investors in terms of research, and a lot of them have told me that they've switched from no ESG consideration to having a 1 or 2 ESG fund, to making sure that they integrate ESG into their investment process, as well as the same way they're going to do credit analysis when they invest in an issuer, or an equity. So we had the need in Europe to make sure that we have a unified classification of what we consider to be environmentally sustainable, and that we have a unified definition of green that is science-based, industry-specific, and that is aligned with the agreement that we've made of being net zero in 2050 in terms of carbon emission. So we've defined environmental objective, and on the back of this, we've defined, okay, how can a company, depending on its activity, be substantially contributing to climate mitigation or climate adaptation? So then the European Taxonomy Technical Expert Group have covered for 70 activities what does it mean to substantially contribute to climate change mitigation, and for 68 activities or industries, what does it mean to contribute to climate change adaptation. And I wanted to show you with this slide the range of activities that are covered. It's not only for utilities, it's not only for environmental related activities, it's also for financials, it's also for technical activities, construction and real estate, and even information and communications. So they really went deep dive into this topic. Why is it important for you to care about that? Because it's going to impact everyone. It's going to impact the buy side, the sell side, so your investors, as well as you guys, corporations. For now, it's just to set a narrative about how much of your activity is environmentally sustainable as per the taxonomy, but soon it's going to become a regulatory requirement, because for corporation, there is currently a consultation outstanding for a directive called the Non-Financial Reporting Directive. This piece of regulation has been created in 2014, but they are now amending it to make sure that as of June 2021, all companies, all public entities, or entities that are considered public interest by the different governments above 500 employees will have to basically disclose their taxonomy alignments in terms of revenues and capital expenditure. So that's really, really key for you guys to know that you will have to disclose that, and you will have to disclose it in a binding manner, because this piece of regulation was already outstanding, but it was non-binding. While now you will have to do it through a specific framework, which will probably be the taxonomy. And then on the back of that, all buy-side institutions, all investors will have to disclose how much of their portfolio is aligned with the taxonomy and how their portfolio integrates sustainability risk. Even if they don't have an ESG fund, they will have to do it. So it's very important. One thing that I wanted to show you, and we don't have so much time, is that we have a lot of resources about how it would look like to implement this disclosure. I'm doing a lot of webinars as well, so we can keep you in the loop. Basically, you can look at the report online, because I'm afraid we're running out of time. And you also have a company called Acciona, ACCIONA, that has done a report on how they are currently reporting on their taxonomy alignment, and it's freely available for everyone. I think that SPIE did the same, SPIE. And you can find it online. They've reported their capital expenditure and revenue in the activities of the taxonomy. So that's it for me today. Again, you can find everything on the BNF website under sectors and sustainability, or if you go under companies and asset, you also find our sustainability data hub, where you can find all the data about who has issued a green bond, who has not, who has signed a science-based target, who is currently aligning with some of the reporting tools. I'm really happy to have follow-ups with you guys if needed, so don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And if you have questions, I'm happy to take them. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, but you can take questions. I can take questions.